across all sorts of sectors from retail, defence, and others. I, until 5 weeks ago, had spent the previous 5-ish years either running third-line engineering teams across infrastructure and end-user compute, or in a strategy role, and then 5 weeks ago left to start up Nueworx. So I thought I'd stick a bit of branding up there. But so this is about security basics. This is very much around what can you do if you're an early startup, what do you need to be thinking about? But if you want to know more about security, I can bore you for several hours, so ask all the questions you want. So really, what's the risk? Did you know passwords don't work? They are terrible. Shared responsibility models, so if you're building and you're building in Azure, security is your responsibility as well, so we'll come on to that a little bit. Thoughts about security journey, and we'll finish on the end. So, what is the risk? 4 in 10 businesses had a cyber attack last year from every size. So if you've got an online presence, you are at risk. And it's not just, you might not be being targeted deliberately, you might be a drive-by victim as they're targeting someone else, but you are at risk. I think the key thing for me here is 60% of small businesses go bankrupt. Right? If you've had a cyber attack, you can't sell your services, your customers go somewhere else, or you haven't got backups, 60% go bankrupt. It is a huge number. Phishing is the biggest issue. So someone sending you an email, pretending to be from someone else, biggest thing to look out for. But cyber isn't the only risk. What if you leave your laptop in a coffee shop and someone nicks it? Or you drop it and it breaks. There's lots of reasons to think about how you do security and how you protect your data. So the first thing is passwords do not work, right? And this is probably news to a lot of people, but a password's really bad. We've all seen over the years websites go, oh, it now needs to be 8 characters, it now needs a special character, a random number, and a capital letter, and it's all to try and stop people from hacking into your accounts. Passwords are something you know, but they can be broken. People can brute force them and just keep trying different passwords until they get into your account. So password and something else is better. So password and SMS or a phone call is better, but even these are now being removed from a lot of scenarios. So there's banking regulations in the UAE and I think it's the Netherlands that say you can't use text anymore, and that's because people do SIM hijacking scams. So transfer the number, then ask for the code, and then they're into your account. Password and multi-factor authentication. You've probably all got an app on your phone where you get a code, and you type the code into the website. Multi-factor authentication prevents 99% of attacks. Because unless someone can figure out how to get hold of your multi-factor, they can't get in. So much better. The best is passwordless, so you don't have a password, and it uses either a physical key or what's called a passkey on a device. And this is better because it can't be hijacked. And I have a little video, so you don't have to listen to me. 2-minute video. I don't know if this will work with sound. Hopefully it will. It's not going to work, is it? No? Okay, it's not going to work. I'll give up.
Quick question, sorry. So
yeah.
On those different types of like good, better, best, can you choose to use like an authenticator, or is it only some websites will give you the option to use it?
So only some websites and applications will give you the option to use it. But if you're a business owner and you've got Microsoft, they will force you to use it. But if the option is there, use it. So the difference in what the video is going to cover between between multi-factor and passwordless is essentially if you get a phishing email in and it presents you a fake login page for the site you're trying to get to, you put your username in, you put your password in, and you put your multi-factor in, and it's got them, and then it can use them to get into that account. The way passkeys work is they are linked between your device and the end website, and that communication is encrypted. So essentially, if you get a phishing attack and you get a link that looks like Microsoft but isn't Microsoft, that end website cannot read the passkey, so you're secure. So it's authenticated between the two. And that's where passkeys are much better. And that's why, if I can get past this, loads of websites are now not just making MFA available, they're making passkeys available, including the NHS. So the NHS app, if you go into your settings, you can configure it to use a passkey. So what I would say is if you're using Microsoft or AWS or any of those core things to host your business and do your email or anything else as you start up, make sure that you are ideally using a passkey, but definitely using MFA. It's free, doesn't cost any more, but will protect you hugely.
And is there a Google, like say Microsoft?
Yeah, Google have exactly the same, so you can log in through Google as well. This is all about Microsoft. This also applies to AWS. This also applies to Google. The nuances will be slightly different, but as you're building websites, as you're building applications, there is a shared responsibility model. So this is talking about M365, so your email, your Word, your OneDrive, all that type of stuff. But fundamentally, when you look at what's not in Microsoft's area of responsibility, how you secure your account and your access management, but how you back up your data. People think because it's a cloud service, it's backed up. It's not in M365. So you need to be aware of that. There is a risk there. And therefore, in all the GDPR, data archival, all that kind of stuff, is your responsibility to go and configure. And you see exactly the same in Microsoft Azure. It's different depending on whether it's SaaS all the way back to IaaS. But just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean it's the cloud provider's responsibility. So as you're building things, think about how you secure it. Do I need, in front of my web application, an application firewall? How am I preventing the whole of the internet doing whatever it wants to my application and securing it? Because it's not there by default. And actually, if you're building an AI is exactly the same, still shared responsibility, right? So, the key things for me here are identity, data governance. How are you making sure that only the right people get in, that your model is giving the right answers? Actually, in AI land, lots of it is not to do with the vendor. The vendor is just hosting the model. So, especially if you're going out to customers or investors at some point, you want to be thinking about what's my journey and how am I articulating that I'm governing the thing that I've built properly. So in terms of backup, this is really noddy, but just if everything's on your laptop and you lose your laptop, what are you going to do? Where have you got a copy? You can stick it on a USB stick. You can put a copy in the cloud. But likewise, if you're just in Microsoft, keep a local copy. What if you have a fire in your house and you don't pick up your laptop? There's so many things that could derail you if you're not thinking about where your data is and how you're securing it. And I would talk about as well value versus cost. So you don't, do you need Microsoft licensing to run a business? Well, you don't. You can have a Gmail account and you can crack on from there. But as you start to think about how you mature your business and the licenses that you're buying, do you want to pay £4.60 a month or do you want to pay £16.90? Well, the difference between the two is for £16.90, you get a lot of email protection that will block those phishing emails. So if you go and get your first member of staff who you don't trust maybe as much as you do yourself because you know what you know, do you want to spend £4.60 or do you want to spend another £10 a month? Because if you get hacked, £10 a month is really cheap. Really, really cheap to protect yourselves. So I would really encourage you as you think about what do I need for the business, especially as you start to scale, what is the value in the things that I am buying and deploying, and am I deploying all the functionality in that license as well? Because there's no point just buying a license and not turning on the capability that you buy. So a lot of the vendors will have a lot of functionality wrapped into those license SKUs. Think about how you can exploit them. the NCSC, has anyone come across NCSC, Cyber Essentials? So National Cybersecurity Centre is a government-funded centre, and they have specific sections aimed at individuals, startups, small businesses, enterprises. I'll come on to a bit about Security Journey on the next slide, but it's a real treasure trove. If we share the slides later, all links are embedded in the slide. But they give you hints and tips and advice. They've got some tools on how to start in IT security, what you want to be thinking about, and really accessible to non-IT experts. So absolutely go and have a look at that. And that's the Cyber Action Toolkit that's mentioned. As you start to grow, Cyber Essentials is the first kind of business level certification. So it's essentially a self-declaration of conformity against a standard. If you do properly conform to that standard, you at least have ticked security basics. It is not the be-all and end-all, right? Security can go much, much further. But as a small business, it will put you ahead of 90% of other small businesses. And Cyber Essentials Plus then is a step up beyond it. So that's an auditor comes into your business and they check your settings, they confirm they're right and compliant with the standard. And it is just the next step up. Both of these, by the way, come with free Cyber Essentials insurance when you pass them. So if you have some levels of insurance in your business but you don't have dedicated cyber, then there's a small, I think they're called micro entities, you're eligible for cyber insurance through the schemes. So in terms of quick wins, train your staff. Anyone that has got access to your systems, if they don't know what a phishing attack is, if they don't know how to spot them, teach them, share the knowledge, share the love. And this one's really interesting. So this is a new one that's come out. So you'll be used to the box that appears on the screen. It's behind this one that says click to prove you're human. Great. So you now click on the box to prove you're human. And it goes, just to validate it, or whatever additional information we need, it says press Windows and R, which launches the run box, and then press Control-V, which does paste, and then press Enter. When you clicked that box to say I'm a human, it didn't verify you. You actually copied code that's hidden in the website, and you are now running code on your machine. But it's a phishing attack. It's all branded. It all looks proper. It's, across multiple different sites. It's a really sneaky way that if you're a user who doesn't have the knowledge, you just follow it to get into the website, because why wouldn't you? So absolutely, train your staff. This is a live risk at the moment that is new that's on the internet.
That might inspire home design.
Yeah. Encrypted devices. Just because your device has been stolen doesn't mean your data needs to be stolen. Every version of Windows has a way to encrypt the hard drive. So if you do not encrypt the hard drive and I steal your device, I can plug your hard drive into mine and I can read everything on it. If you encrypt it and I steal your device and I plug it in, I can't read any of the data. So whether you're paying for licenses for more functionality or not, encrypting the device is something you can do today across your phone or your laptop. So if you've got business sensitive stuff, make sure you do that. When you're backing up your data, make sure you can restore it. I've worked with a large business that went, we're good, we back up our data, and then they tried to restore it, and they went, we can't restore it. A backup is only as good as when it's running back in your systems. So just check. You don't have to restore everything, but check you can get a file or check you can get a server restored, depending on what you're doing. And then have a plan. What if someone gets into your account? What are you going to do? Do you know who to call? What if your laptop gets encrypted? Do you know how to get to your emails? You don't need a massive plan like you're a massive bank or something, but you do just need to think through, how does the business run if I click on that link? Because the last, customer trust will go if you don't answer your emails for 2 or 3 days. And actually, for me, this isn't about security for security's sake. This is about the business outcome. So how do I build trust with my customer base? How do I show I'm a good business to transact with? How do I become investor ready so that if I want to go and raise some money, I don't fall over at the 11th hour when they go, oh, can you just tell us about how you do security? It is just a hygiene factor that you need to think about. So security goes a really long way. So these yellow dots, patching, passkeys, antivirus. You sure you're all running antivirus? You sure it's all up to date? It's a really good way of protecting your device. Removing your unused accounts. Don't use the same accounts for your personal stuff as you do for your business. Absolutely don't do that. Kind of gets you up to cyber essentials. There's a bit more to be done, but that's not a bad place to be. The security journey can take you so much further, and that really depends on what your business need is. So if you're trying to transact with enterprises, if you're trying to transact with anyone in the government, any arm's length quangos or bodies or anything like that, they will start to ask for more. So think about what you're trying to sell, and then where you need to get to on the journey. So products like Microsoft Intune can centrally manage your devices. There are pre-built policies in Intune that you can deploy that harden your devices. So things like scripts that you could run on your laptop, you can block from running through Intune. So the next phase on that journey is think about central management, because then you can see, especially if you've got more than one device, you can see, are they all patching? Has everyone's device patched this month? Are we behind anywhere? What's the security risks? Those business premium licenses, the £16.90, enable us to see what the vulnerabilities on the laptops are. So we can see what applications haven't patched, what new security vulnerabilities have come out in the last week that are impacting our estate. So there's loads of functionality there as you start to move up the chain. If you're providing an internet-facing service in particular, do you need a SOC? Does anyone know what SOC is? So Security Operations Center. So these are people that will monitor your environment 24 hours a day. So if you're building applications or similar and you're worried about the security of them, they see a threat or an alert, they will step into your environment on your behalf and they will stop that threat from happening. So rather than you being in bed asleep and you wake up the next day and everything's encrypted, a SOC hopefully will step in and stop that from happening because they've got 24/7 eyes on. But security can also go out to data as well. So you're emailing your data out of your business. Do you know where it's going? Do you know how it's being forwarded? Does it have classification labels on? Can you actually pin it to just the recipient to open it? The technology's out there to enable you to do all of that stuff. But again, it's back to that journey of how far do you need to go? What's your business need? But you can go a huge way in security to make sure that you've got complete control over all of your business assets. And so actually, if you looked at this properly, Cyber Essentials is somewhere down here in the bottom left-hand corner. It really is like the basics. And then all of this and more goes well beyond. But I suppose the message is, start small, get some quick wins. It'll put you a long way forward compared to other people. But as hopefully your business grows, there's a lot more that you can do over time. And then I can't help but finish with AI. So if any of you are building with AI, Microsoft have a program open at the moment for an AI accelerator that you can apply to. It's open until the 28th. And there's a whole raft of benefits around go-to-market acceleration, Microsoft solution reviews and that kind of stuff if you're accepted into the program. So just thought I would share that for today. And that is a really quick whistle-stop tour around the basics of IT security. Patch it, encrypt it, train your staff, and you're on the journey. Any questions?
SIM swapping terrifies me somewhat. Is there anything, if they want to do it, can they just do it? Or is it, if it happens, it's because I've made a mistake somewhere? I'm speaking personally, I think, rather than...
So I'll start with not my area of expertise. They need to contact the network and they need to social engineer the network into I am you and I want you to move my number onto this SIM. So it should be becoming harder over time as the networks switch onto it, but clearly banking regulators around the world are going, it's still happening, we're not happy that it's a secure method to send that second factor of authentication. So multi-factor is about something you have and something you know. You know your password, you have your multi-factor. And banks aren't convinced that SIM swapping isn't a big enough problem that they shouldn't move away from that.
Because I was looking at, Skype used to give you a mobile number, or HubSpot you can get a mobile number, so instead of using a SIM card, you get the number provided by them. I don't know if that's an extra layer of security because you'd have to log into your Skype account or HubSpot account to then get the one-time password from that number.
Yeah, but it's about how you get that one-time password, and making sure about how, if you're building something that people are logging into, how are you providing an MFA process for them? Or how are you preventing people from breaking into your platform? So we're building a B2B solution and we're leveraging Microsoft authentication to tell us who's logging in, so single sign-on. So as you get more SaaS applications, you can link them back to Microsoft Entra, for instance. And then Entra is where your identity lives and where your MFA claims live. And the third-party application is just communicating back to Entra and accepting proof that you are who you say you are. So how do you provide those MFA tokens or MFA processes if you're building an application yourself?
What can we learn from M&S, their recent disaster, we call it? What can we learn from it and potentially apply to our businesses today?
So M&S, they've never formally come out and stated, but the very much strong rumour is they got done through their service desk. So they got social engineered. So M&S, Co-op and Jaguar Land Rover use the same IT outsourcer to provide their service desks. They were all done through the service desk is the rumour, and all through social engineering attempts. So basically someone's rung up the service desk, said, I'm person X. So if you think about how you do it, you go on LinkedIn, you find people with the right job title in the right business, and you go, oh, I'm that person, reset my password, please. And you social engineer your way in, and then you've got that person's account. Now, if you've got proper multi-factor that the service desk doesn't reset, then you can't get into that person's account because the password's been reset, but you don't have a multi-factor, which is why enable multi-factor if you can. But then the other thing is, in a mature IT estate, you have an account for your day-to-day work, and if you are doing privileged administrative work in the IT, you should have a second admin account. And that second admin account doesn't have an email address, has a different username and password. And so if someone breaches your day-to-day account, I'm surfing, I've gone on a phishing website, I've accidentally clicked on that, they can take over your emails, but they can't go and encrypt your servers or change your infrastructure. So, and that's where Cyber Essentials starts to help. So to get basic Cyber Essentials, you need your day-to-day account, and you need a privileged account for anything that you're doing around configuring applications or building out infrastructure and the like.
So would you recommend for who in the organisation would you recommend to have the two accounts again?
So anyone, so I call it anyone with privileged access. So anyone that's got access to an admin portal in any of your IT systems, that's privileged access.
Nice one, thank you.
Is there a main motivation for cyber attacks on small businesses? Like, are they looking to extort money? Are they looking to gain control for other reasons? Like, what's the benefit of somebody?
It's monetary, because most small businesses won't have backups, so they have no way of recovering their business. So they pay the £40,000 or whatever it is to get their data back, and they move on. So you're an easy target generally because you don't have the security, you don't train your staff, so you're an easy in. You have to pay because you've got no way of recovering. So you pay the ransomware, you get your data back, and they move on to the next one. Whereas people like M&S and Co-op almost certainly won't have paid them because they've got the backups, but it is a huge process to get yourself going again from backups.
What's stopping someone from, like, if you pay to have your data back from ransomware, what's stopping people from not giving you the data back?
They're criminals, nothing. there are no guarantees that paying them gets you your data back. And that,
There's no customer service afterwards, is there?
no, you can't take them to court to go, I paid them and they didn't give me it back. No, and that's where, thinking this stuff through in advance and understanding, what your risks are. You don't have to do a huge process document or something, but as small business owners, you need to think through what your risks are and how you deal with them, and which one's fundamentally going to cripple you and bankrupt you, and which ones you go, well, I can live with that. I'll accept that risk. But it's just about, in the rush to build a business, don't forget what happens when things go wrong.
I'm going to try and answer this question in a sensible way. So one of the things that we're currently looking at is building out a survey that we send. So let's say we're working with business X, send out a survey to 20 members of their staff. They complete some details in, may include some identifiable information, so like email address, team, that kind of stuff. And the bit where we're kind of getting a little bit stuck is we're using a bunch of different programs to run that whole process. So we work with one app to send the email out, another app to hold the data, another one to kind of analyze it, then another one. So there's kind of all these different stops along the way. And even though the final data is stored within our cloud, which is double encrypted or that, it's like all those different stops along the way. I feel like that's where some of the risk comes in. How do we judge that? How do we judge, okay, it's safe to use this company for this, and how we're going to encrypt it as they pass to this one, to this one? Do you kind of see what I mean?
Yeah. If they're SaaS, it's all about your license agreement.
Okay.
So go and read the license agreement. Go and read the trust center. They normally have a trust center. Understand the details. So the devil is in the detail a lot. So I historically have worked with a lot of government type clients who go, data cannot leave the UK. We're building with AI. OpenAI came out a couple of weeks ago and went, UK data residency in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice. Keir Starmer came out and went, it's brilliant, investing in the UK. You go and read the fine print. They store your data in the UK. They still process it in Europe. So don't take things at face value necessarily if you've got specific requirements, you need to go and read between the lines. That's your only recourse in SaaS, predominantly. But then, what you're describing, make sure you don't leave data anywhere. So if you can, make sure it all cleans out through to your back-end platform, because you'll be subject to GDPR and subject access requests and all that kind of stuff as well with that data. So the last thing you want is that data in multiple systems, because right to forget and all that kind of stuff comes into play there.
Nice. I've been talking to a lot of my team and telling them to use AI a lot more as the way forward. How would you advise the information that we place on it? What's your thoughts around information we place? How sensitive should we be on it? And overall?
So it depends on the AI that you're using.
Open AI.
So if you're using free ChatGPT, the license agreement is they will train on your data. So anything you give it, they can train on. So if you give it my name and my address as part of the data that you're asking about, so you put all the surveys into ChatGPT, you've just put my personal information into ChatGPT in a way that it can learn from it. Massive no-no. So you need to think about your policies in your business in terms of what people are allowed to put into those platforms. Enterprise ChatGPT doesn't learn on the data. You're fine. Put the survey stuff in, not a problem. If you're using Copilot as part of Microsoft Copilot as part of a Microsoft license, doesn't train on the data. So, back to the small print in the SaaS agreements, you need to understand what tool you're using, what they're explicitly saying they will or won't do, and where the data goes, because back to if you're using free ChatGPT, it's going to the States, most likely. So now you're in complete contravention of GDPR if you put all the survey stuff in and it's learning on it. It's the small print. But this is where AI, SaaS, cloud, you just need to be aware and turned on around what they're doing with your data.
Thank you.
One of the things you said was deleting like unused accounts to prevent attacks. Is there any way to find out where your email addresses, like what accounts your email addresses are being used for? All in one list, so you can kind of go ahead and pick, okay, well it's been used in this website. I don't want it.
Not that I'm aware of, because everyone keeps it all quite private. There is a website called Have I Been Pawned, which is lists you type your email address in and it tells you every single data breach it's been in.
Oh, okay.
So if you type my personal email address in, it's God loads. Like, there's a massive LinkedIn hack in 2018 or something, 2016 that it's listed in. It's listed in Adobe. Like, it's terrifying because they've not just got your email address, they've probably got your password as well. And that's where I probably should put it in the slides, a password manager, so different passwords for every site is good. MFA means your password's largely irrelevant, hence turn on your MFA. But no, in terms of where have you put your password in over the years, there's not a central location you can go to look at that.
Is
Yeah.
having multiple accounts, MFA, because I've had with Airbnb recently, it wouldn't let me use my email and my password. I had to create a Google account with the same email address and a password. And I'm like, what's the point? Especially
Yeah, sounds like.
That's really
If I use the same password for my Google account as my Airbnb account, I'm just putting in the same password twice as MFA.
It's not MFA.
That's
No.
not classed as
No, MFA is only a set of rotating numbers on your phone or other device.
Sounds very basic. What is MFA?
Right, multi-factor authentication.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So on your phone, you might have Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator. And when you go onto the website, whatever website you're setting it up on, there's normally a configure MFA. It'll come up with a QR code.
Oh, yes.
You open the Authenticator app, you click scan your QR code,
Yeah.
and then it will pop up with a set of numbers, and you can forever use that on that website.
Thank you.
Okay.
Amazing.